Hi, welcome. And I'm sitting here today with Kathy Mann, an amazing woman who I really want you to meet. And you're going to get so much value from her learning more about life and how not to do it. Because I think you got the gold medal in how not to do it. And now you're developing and blooming into the gold medalist of how to do things, isn't that?
Yeah, I think so. I think the experience of burnout that I had has taught me a great deal about my life and where it should be going.
I can imagine that. So, Kathy, just in short, so everybody can know who you are. Tell us, who are you? What are you doing? And then we'll get into where you come from.
Okay. I am a writer and a wife and mother. I am an ex-managing director of a small business.
Yes.
I learned a great deal from that business. But I suffered a burnout in the process because I wasn't following my passion. And now I have redesigned my life in a manner that I'm really aligned with my calling and I'm focusing on what I enjoy doing.
Okay. Very similar to the work that I do, and that's why we're talking today. Just one question. So you're an author.
Yes.
So what do you write about? What do you speak about? Because you're a speaker as well. I've seen you speak. Impressive. I got goosebumps when I listen.
Thanks, Willem. I write and speak about the topic of wellness, and I really believe in people following the best life that they can lead and following their passions and really making the most out of all opportunities that come their way instead of just being on that treadmill, finding life a grind and just doing.
Somebody will decide for me.
Yeah.
That's a stock standard plan that even I had up to the age of 35, and thank goodness I got out of that. So, Kathy, just enlighten us. That break point. What led up? What was your life up until that meltdown that you had?
Okay. I think it took a number of years to get there. It was slow and difficult to.
It usually is.
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight.
No.
But I think there were a number of factors contributing to the burnout. So one of those was that I had small children at the time, very small children, and waking up repeatedly in the night. And that's quite a heavy burden. Another one was that I was under an enormous amount of pressure and stress in the business. I wasn't enjoying it. I inherited it from my father. And the business was really not at its best.
Okay.
My father hadn't invested in it over the past 30 years, so everything was very far behind. We needed a lot of funding to get the business up to where it needed to be.
Okay.
And so there was a huge amount of pressure on me to make that work. And then
also possibly, sorry for interrupting, but since you inherited the company from your dad, you also have that added pressure of, I can't let this fail, because if I do, I let down and I fail at a 30-year legacy.
Yes,
and I can
had
imagine
that obligation, that sense of obligation. I have to make this work because
absolutely.
my father's depending on me, and in addition to that, I was also running ultramarathons, so I was very fit at the time and running, but also pushing my body from a physical point of view as well.
Okay.
So a lot of different
mental,
multifaceted,
physical. It was just coming from everywhere.
All sides.
Oh, absolutely. And what happened? What was that breaking moment? What?
Yeah, I'd started to run out of energy a lot, so just feeling really fatigued. I struggled to get enough energy to get myself going through every day.
Yes.
And then they reached a point in November 2014 where I felt too exhausted to actually continue at work.
Okay.
So on the recommendation of my partner, I withdrew to work at home to try to recover for a while, because I thought a few weeks, everything can be fixed with
It'll
motivation.
blow over.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
It's like a cold. Yeah.
And so I took a few weeks at home, and then I got a diagnosis of my illness and what had really transpired in my body physically.
And what was the diagnosis?
So it sounds very complicated, but it says it's an HPA axis dysregulation. So that's the adrenal glands malfunctioning. Many people call that adrenal fatigue.
Okay.
That's a common colloquial name for it.
Okay.
And then on the other side, I got an autoimmune disease of the thyroid gland, which also governs energy. So both of those govern energy and stress, so they're affected. So I had no energy. That was really the outcome.
So somebody basically pulled the plug.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I took a sabbatical from my company. I talked to my shareholders about that to say, well, 4 months, I'm sure 4 months I'll be okay.
Yeah, spot on.
And then after 4 months, I really realized that the business was a contributing factor and I couldn't continue there because I also wasn't doing the business any favors by, not being capable of leading it.
Did your shareholders see that?
Yeah, they understood. Yeah,
okay,
the primary one did. My father didn't really, but the others did.
That's fine.
And I resigned and then left them to take the business forward from there.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And how did you then... I can only imagine the hole you were in because there was now all the stresses and what your emotions coupled with that.
Yeah.
But now you're standing there looking up at the world, going, where now? How do I rise from the ashes? What did you do?
It was a frightening place to be because my identity was really shaken. I thought I was really invincible and so strong. I thought, I can run these ultra marathons and I can do anything. And then all of a sudden I realized, I actually can't. I actually broke. And I'm not invincible after all. And I needed to rebuild myself, sort of decouple my identity from my work.
So was that the persona you formed as this impenetrable fortress of business-driven woman?
I'm
Give
strong,
me anything.
I'm capable, I'm competent, I can do anything.
I will have billion-dollar deals for breakfast, just ship it in. I'm not afraid.
I thought I can achieve
And that was
anything.
the persona that you had.
Yeah.
And now that was gone. Now you were naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels naked.
And
I've
what
been through
was
that process.
Frightening about that was that I couldn't go back to my trade before I was a managing director because that was sort of 15 years backwards. I couldn't go, I was not that person anymore.
No.
So how do I go forward and forge a completely new path? That was really scary and challenging.
And especially with today's, with the responsibilities you had at that point in your life. That's usually difficult.
Yeah.
That is an important point because I'm sure a lot of you are facing that situation as well. Where you're stuck just like Kathy was in that situation, like, what now? I can't, and it feels impossible. And how am I going to shift that? How am I going to get out of that system? How will I dig myself out of this hole that I dug for 10, 15 years? Yeah. But you did it successfully.
Yeah, I think the most important thing I did was that, of course, I had some time on my hands because I was recovering.
Yes.
So I took that step back and I really realized that I have to follow something I'm passionate about. I have to do work that I love.
Yes.
And I'd ignored that for a long time. I'd been always feeling like I have to do the obligation type work, not the thing that I really wanted to do.
And did you, through your life, was there calling, moments of calling going like,
there were very small moments.
Yeah.
I look back on the goals I set for 2013 and I'd always written things like go on a writing course or write an article. It was there. Okay. But I completely disregarded it because, it's creative and that's just nonsense. I must be in the financial sector. I must be practical and earn money and not mess around with this other stuff.
Practical. That's the word. Because I just want to make a comment on that. And I have this analogy that I sometimes use in workshops. What she experienced there is, imagine yourself standing in a swimming pool and trying to hold a balloon underwater. It will always just pop out somewhere.
Yeah.
And when people tell me, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know what my passion is, go look for the balloon. It's popping out somewhere. It is popping out. And even in my life, I've suppressed it for so long, and the pop came in a massive pop for me. It was like somebody launched a pool party. Like so many balloons came out.
Yeah.
But you can't suppress it. You are what you are, and you love what you love doing. It's already there in your life. You just have to start doing it.
Yeah, I think the trigger for me was to identify what I got excited about. If I thought about a future, what did I feel, I'd love to do that. And writing was it, writing a book. My whole life I've always wanted to write a book.
Yes.
And so I also used a lot of the psychometric tests from my past and my corporate past. And I looked at all these aspects and I tried to identify themes. Yes. And there were themes emerging. Things like you need time alone to write and to think, to process, to research. All that was there all along.
Yes.
And I didn't act on it until now.
So even though I just want to look at your corporate career and everything, although everything was there, you should be doing this. This is your environment. Yeah. You just went back to the office and said, well, that's just mumbo
That's
jumbo.
Birds, yeah.
No, it doesn't fit the persona I have and the life I lead.
Yeah.
And also, can we really ask our bosses to work alone, have time alone?
Yeah.
Would that be frowned upon? Am I seen as lazy now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shirking. And also at home, there's no time alone to think and breathe with two small children
kids.
running around.
No.
So at work, I was overwhelmed doing work I didn't want to do. And at home, it was exhausting looking after these little kids. So I think in both environments, I was under a lot of pressure and I couldn't really be free to be myself.
Absolutely.
And get what I needed out of
life.
Yeah,
because kids don't ask for your time. They just demand. They take
follow
it.
you around.
No, they just take it.
Yeah.
I love it. When I didn't have children, I used to tell people I don't have time. Then I got kids. I got I had mounds of time.
So I started writing because I also, from a number of factors, I realized it was really cathartic for me to try to process this experience of burnout. I try to also, I do have an analytical side too, not only the creative side. So I started to figure out, how did this work? And if it broke in this way, how do I put in measures to not let it happen again? So I used the writing to try to extract meaning and understanding for myself.
Yes.
And then in the process, then I wrote a book about the experience and try to help other people to look for those signs that I had ignored.
Okay. And just let's look at the book.
Yeah.
Look at the signs that we usually ignore. So you're going to show us in the book how to look at that. Will you give us tools then to move forward in that as well?
I have identified 7 principles. I call them the 7 principles of self-preservation.
Oh, beautiful.
And they are about knowing yourself well enough to act on your strengths and, not working under obligation.
Yes.
And at the end of each principle, there are exercises to try to elicit that understanding and knowledge of yourself to move forward towards a better life. Okay,
that's good. What advice would you give to somebody? Because let's create a few scenarios. Somebody's watching this interview and they're 40 years old. They've been employed in the corporate sector, let's say for the past 15 years. And they're slowly feeling that they're dying inside. I can imagine that grey ash feeling in the middle of their chest. But now they have children, they have a mortgage, they have cars, so many responsibilities, but also, the position that they have in society.
Yeah.
I am a CEO, I am a manager, I am a supervisor. Yes. There's a certain status with it. What advice would you give them to move forward? Because that's a difficult one, I found.
Yes, I think following your passion has a bit of a bad rap these days. And, people don't like that term because it feels so lofty and so difficult to accomplish. Yeah. But what I really love, I speak about in my book, is that I read a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic.
Yes.
And in that book, she talks about how you don't have to go and live in a caravan in the forest to follow your passion. No. You can she speaks about her father's experience, and she uses these words: he folded his passions into his life. So he was an engineer, but he was excited about growing fir trees and keeping bees and all sorts of different things.
Yes.
So he used his free time on the weekends to enjoy his passion and to make the most of that.
Yes.
And I think that is what a kind of advice I would give, is that follow those little things that make you excited. Yes. Just try to fold them into your life in little ways, even an hour a week initially. Yes. And eventually your life will become more fulfilled and that grey ash feeling will start to dissipate.
That reminds me of something. I met a confectionery chef once. And he was a trained engineer, mechanical engineer.
Sure.
And that is quite a combination. But obviously he has his knowledge. And he has these abilities, but now he has this passion of making cakes. And then he applied his thinking. And damn, does he make amazing cakes. So much so, he systematized the whole process of making cakes. So much so that he employs more than 100 chefs working for him, making cakes. And now he only plays in the big things. The cakes are really exciting.
Yeah.
And that's a deeper fold. That's more what I also look at. It's how do you use what you have to live what you really want to? Because you can. It's not impossible. You don't have to live 2 lives. I'm one here and I'm another here.
You can merge them, and ever so slowly,
Absolutely.
maybe one becomes slightly bigger than the other one. At some point in your life, it's possible.
Yeah, I always talk about work-life integration, because I found so many times in many of the clients that I coach that at work they're one person and they're inspired and they're energized and they're driven and they love what they do, and then they come home because everybody told them work is bad, and then they hide it, and then they're completely other person, and they're low energy, they're boring, and their relationships falter because the family knows what you really like to do. Even the kids, the kittens know that as well. So you can't hide it, just be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sometimes difficult to be who you truly want to be.
Yeah, I found that difficult. I must say, I felt I was under a lot of expectations, and I had to break free of all of those in this process of healing and recovery.
The shoots and ought-tos.
I should be practical. I should be getting a day job. I should be paying the bills. I should be doing all this stuff. And so it was very difficult for me to shake those shackles eventually. But for me,
How did you shake those shackles?
Well, I think the extent to which my health collapsed gave me that as a gift, because I felt that I didn't have the energy to work even an hour a day initially. So I had to be completely, start from scratch again. Yeah. And I think it forced me to be fully authentic to doing what I love, because I knew if I go back to where I was, I'm never going to recover.
Okay, so how would somebody watching this interview now, how would you advise them to slowly start owning your gift? What's that? Your bliss. I like that one. Owning your bliss. How would you go about that? What advice would you give them to start standing up and say, this is what I really like?
I think I speak about this in my book in one of the principles, and it's about alignment. So I think the first thing you start to do is notice your self-talk. Hear how you speak to yourself, make sure it's positive, love yourself, be kind and be gentle. I was very hard on myself for a long time.
So be kind to yourself first.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good principle.
And then align what you think with what you do, and with your moral compass and with your work. You slowly start to align all of these things. And then once you've done that, it's not a very easy thing to do. No. But the more you try to do that, the more authentic your life becomes.
Yeah, I found whatever you move towards moves towards you. Yeah. That's a wonderful thing about nature. Communication to your family about this shift. Like mom or dad, they're not this suit-wearing person no more. Although they might wear suits and whatever they're going to do now, but they're going to do this other thing. How important do you think it is to communicate that shift to your loved ones?
I think it's vital, because you need a support structure in your life, no matter if you're well or if you're struggling with illness. So it's really important to let people around you know what you need and who you are. I think for my children, I also want to model what I want them to live. I don't want them to feel that they have to live up to our expectations in their lives. They need to follow their heart. Yeah. And to model that, I think, is really important.
Yeah, because it's a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty. Yeah. Not just for you, but for them as well. Yeah. Yeah. And usually that uncertainty, that can lead to disastrous relationship consequences. I'm sure even a divorce in some instances. And just to tell them, this is why I think I'm moving towards it. For today I'm moving towards that direction.
Yes. I think it helped as well, in writing my blog, because I established a blog as also part of this cathartic healing process, and in expressing myself and my needs. Yes. I had spent many years not expressing what I wanted and needed out of life. Yes. And finally the blog was a way, it was almost like a coward's way or a safe way of saying what I really think and need, without having to be strong enough. I wasn't from a health point of view, strong enough to say out loud to my husband, I'm not getting a job again. I'm going to do this now. But I could write that in my blog to say, I really feel I need to follow my passion, and that's important to me. And he read that blog, and I think he started to process and understand that well. Okay. And in that process, he started to support and understand my thinking better than having an argument about, well, we've got bills and
this needs to
get
be
a
done.
Job.
Yeah.
I think
understand
he slowly over time started to see my thinking and understand where I'm going with this.
And also, I think one great thing that we sometimes forget is it's not just a growth phase for you, but also for your husband.
Yeah.
You know, because now there's more responsibility upon him.
Yes.
He needs to grow and become more as well. So
Yes.
it's not negative. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It might seem in the beginning like, oh, look what she's dumping on me. I'm not in a mood for this. Like, I don't want to do this.
It was tough. I think it was tough on a few fronts because I wasn't even strong enough to sort of cook supper. So he had to not only take on the financial burden, but he also had to take on more childcare.
Well done.
So that was tough. Well,
Yes.
it was a necessity,
Yeah,
really. So he started going to more of the kids' parties, but then in other respects, there are benefits. He started to meet more of the parents and mingle more, made great friendships with the dads.
Yes.
So there are definitely healthy spin-offs, and I feel from that experience, we have a much more balanced focus on childcare now than previously when everything was on my shoulders.
Yes.
So the whole experience wasn't easy and simple, but I think we're both feeling that the outcome has been a positive one.
Because you became more empowered in certain areas of life, and also he, and now as a couple you're more whole, more balanced individually.
And as a family, the children are really happy to be with him. When in the past, they just wanted mom.
Yeah.
And now it's mom or dad is good enough.
That's good. That is a good place to be in. Oh, that's nice. So, tell me about your book. When are you launching the book?
My book should be launched in about 6 weeks, so I'm hoping for June.
Okay.
And I want it to be available as an ebook and also hard copies through Amazon as far and wide as possible. But I do have a lot to learn in that this is my first time I've written and published a book.
Yes.
So there's a lot of learnings.
I'll give you some advice on that.
That's really exciting. Anyway, I love learning.
So some of you watching this interview, by the time you're watching this, it should be published. And they can go to kathymann.co.za, kathymann.co.za. I will add the URL to the bottom of this video as well. And do visit and order her book and read and engage with Kathy. She's an amazing person. You could see a beautiful energy around her. And learn from her as well. You know, that's why I have these interviews. Because I am not the one and only guru. There are many paths leading up to an enlightened and fun-filled life. And please support Kathy in this. And any advice and just parting wisdom you would like to give everybody watching this?
I think it takes courage to change your life, but the rewards are well worth that step of bravery that it takes to launch into the life that you want.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in the next interview.